everybody. Welcome to another Tipping Point, and I'm super excited to have my good friend Lennon Richardson here. Haven't seen him in a while. He just kind of showed up randomly to join me and John to chat about some things, and very spontaneous. So we're talking about a lot of events before the camera started rolling. So we're just going to get into some personal things that we hope will be helpful and interesting to anyone who comes across this video, and that really is how to work through diversity, how to handle challenges that come throughout life. Sometimes you see it coming, a lot of times you don't, do you? And those emotional experiences can be sometimes labeled as how to work through depression, or how to move through difficult relationship times. Anything that challenges you, how do you get past it? How do you get through it? So this just came up as we were hanging out, and I just thought, why don't we talk a little bit about this and see what comes out of the conversation that might be really helpful for us to talk about. It's therapeutic just to chat about it as we work, and for anyone else going through that time in our lives that we might call a dark period. So Lennon, you told me something I didn't know at all. I know you were struggling in some ways because we had chatted a couple times, but in addition to that, your mother's having challenges.
Yeah.
And you're going through a lot. So why don't you go ahead and just talk about all that?
Yeah, okay, so I'll give you guys just like the 1 minute synopsis of the last 3 years of my life, so to speak.
So you got 60 seconds.
60 seconds! We're gonna cram in more than 1,000 days. So I would say 3 years ago, I was so happy and so content and proud of myself and my life. I had spent the better part of a decade leading up to that, really building up myself, and had gotten in really good shape, was in a relationship, had a really awesome career that allowed me to work remotely from my laptop and to travel the world simultaneously. So as you guys know, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, around that time, I was living a really dynamic life and was really happy and really proud of the work that I'd done, specifically in like the 10 years leading up. I'd really done a lot of personal growth. And that was evident, like internally and externally.
And of course I witnessed that because you and I lived together for...
Right. Yeah.
I mean, in a sense, 2 years, in a way, almost.
Yeah, it was quite close to 2 years. And that period of my time, I was so happy. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I would wake up every morning just so excited about the work that I had in front of me, which was some of it was online marketing, and I was actually just finishing up my stint as a college student then as well. And then after I graduated, I established this really awesome career supporting some clients doing online marketing, which allowed me to work remotely and travel. Mm-hmm. And I'd fallen in love with a girl. Well, so I thought.
That's your first mistake.
That's not fair. So Linda, I totally disagree. My wife, Linda.
Yes.
I disagree with the statement.
The statement that I just made.
The first mistake.
The first mistake.
Well, so this is maybe a bit of an aside, but what happened with that situation is I met this girl while traveling previously, and we had this really passionate 2-week relationship. And then I returned home and I was thinking about her constantly.
And I was there. I witnessed that.
Right.
Yeah, I totally did.
Right.
So lesson number 1 so far, we'll just pop a lesson in there. Never judge a relationship on 2 weeks. Go ahead.
Never judge a relationship on 2 weeks.
But absence does make the heart grow fonder.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah, it can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And having that space between us, we were like, we were kind of in a relationship. I didn't see or date anybody else because I just wanted to be with her. But we were doing this long distance thing for several months. And during that time, I filled in all the blanks so I've held in mind for a long time this image of the type of woman that I want to be with. And meeting this woman, she checked a lot of those initial boxes. And then I allowed myself to believe that she had checked all of them, so to speak, I guess. And then we meet up again.
Love is blind.
Love is blind. And I'm doing this awesome work, and she's working online too, and we're traveling the world together. And we traveled over the course of a year from Japan to India and hit about a dozen countries along the way.
Wow.
But at some point during that trip, I really started to dive emotionally and just was struggling with my work. I had like a minor issue come up with a client that 2 years later, in retrospect, was not worth ruining that relationship over. And that's been one of the. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes, but I was on a great team, and I just tanked. And I had a pretty important role in the organization, and I left them kind of upside down. Okay, so then I found that the end of my traveling, I'm in India now. I'm full on depressed. My last month in India, I only got out of the house twice, and that was basically because my roommate who was renting a room from kicked me out. And so then I moved back to
India.
In India.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Fly back to Central Oregon where I grew up, and I know I'm upside down, but I'm determined to get my life back together. As soon as I arrive, find news that my mom has dementia, and things have gotten. There was different between time I'd seen her just a year previous into seeing her again, and I was in a really bad space, and so we kind of relied on each other. But then it got to a place where like she's pretty dependent on me, and I was feeling kind of stuck in Central Oregon.
Right. Yeah.
So pretty much full on depressed for a year and a half, but for like the last 6 months, I've been slowly building myself up. And the remark that I made earlier, which I thought I like it, is that I haven't stopped feeding the bad wolves, but I've been feeding the good wolves a lot more, and I can feel that pack growing stronger.
So tell me about
That's a great.
just in
analogy.
case for people who don't know the wolf. Tell us. about
Okay,
it.
yeah. So this is like some old Native American.
Yeah.
I guess you could call it folklore.
Folklore. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And it's basically the inside of us. The story goes like this. How does it go? Like, there's a boy, and he goes to the elder, and he's describing how he has this sense of having two wolves inside of him. There's a good wolf and a bad wolf, and sometimes the good wolf is really strong, and sometimes the bad wolf is really strong, but they're always fighting each other. And he asks the elder which wolf wins, and the elder says it's the wolf that you feed.
Huh?
And so that's just an analogy, being that like we have good and bad habits, things we're proud of, things we're disappointed in ourselves about, and but whatever we're focusing on, that's what we're feeding.
So it's kind of like the Western image of the angel and the devil.
Yeah,
Very similar. So
Totally.
if we speak to and feed the devil, then we're going down that road, and if
Right.
we speak to and feed the angel, then that's the
Right.
road we're taking. So
And
it's
so-
all very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, like there's very concrete, actionable things that I can do to feed the good wolf or to feed the bad wolf.
Yeah.
And
And it takes a real conscious decision.
sure.
You know, to say
Does it?
this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going to do.
But,
I think
but
it
in
does.
the moment, though, are we?
No, you're not. But that's the problem.
Yes, that's the problem.
I think the
And
problem
but
is-
identifying that.
But
though,
identifying it like you did
Yeah.
is the beginning of crawling out. I mean, I would say when you identify that you've been unconsciously feeding the bad wolf, and you go, holy crap, what have I been doing? And then shifting and starting to feed the good wolf. That's how we can begin to pull ourselves out.
Yeah, I agree. And so I was both consciously and unconsciously feeding the bad wolf for a long time, and admittedly, am still feeding the bad wolf in some ways. And so, for me, like some of the things that I'm less proud of myself that I would consider feeding the bad wolf is like if I go out and smoke weed, because that's a way for me to just pull myself out of the world, essentially. And it like creates this split where all of a sudden the problems don't matter as much. Of course, I'm not going to do anything to try to resolve the problems because they don't matter. And I know that a lot of people are able to use marijuana responsibly, and that it doesn't seem to derail their lives in any significant way. And for many people, probably actually makes them more productive and happier and just better, well-rounded people.
There's been a lot of documented medical benefits and psychological benefits, but like anything, it's moderation and it's using it for the right reasons as opposed
Right.
to.
As opposed to
But-
escaping.
But in Oregon, it is legal, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. It's freaking everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So, I've always struggled with marijuana. It's probably because I took to it at a really early age, and my father was an addict of many substances, and I share very similar personality traits. It's I tend to be an all or nothing sort of guy, and so I've never been able to use weed and then not have the urge to use it the next day or even 2 hours later. Whereas a lot of people can. I mean, my brother's like that, He'll, if it's a special occasion or whatever, he'll let loose and have fun. And then, but 99% of the time, he's really buttoned up and he's really responsible. But so one of the shifts that I've made is I kept smoking weed, realizing it's diminishing my potential, feeling really down about that, feeling totally crappy, and feeling like I have no way to escape that feeling, and then wanting to smoke weed to
Escape the
escape. Yeah, right.
I can see where the spiral was going.
Right. So feel bad, smoke weed, feel guilty, feel bad, smoke weed. Right? Okay, so that was the cycle. But several months ago, I pulled one of those components out of the cycle, which is I just stopped guilting myself about it.
Okay. Yeah.
Not proud of the fact that I've smoked a lot of weed over the last couple of years, but it is what it is, and I just got utterly tired of being down on myself for it.
So is that acceptance maybe one of the first stepping stones? Not being down on yourself for this behavior,
Right.
accepting it.
Yeah, totally. Because, I mean, the being down on myself for that behavior was putting me in an emotional place where I was not able to feed the good wolves.
Right. Sure.
To do meditation, to go to the gym, to lift weights. That's always been such an amazing therapy for me. To practice mindfulness even.
Mm-hmm.
To just be grateful as I consume my food, as I breathe.
Yeah.
So those are the things I've been doing to start feeding the good wolves. I've started meditating regularly again, daily, and there would have been like a year basically I didn't really meditate at all, and so the good wolves are getting strong, and the bad wolves are still there.
I think we all have to accept our bad wolves, though, right? Can you kill the bad wolf? I mean, would you want to?
I think
no,
they just need to
I'm
be
sure.
in their
So I
place,
overcome this. So say there was what's super bizarre to me about this whole. I'm going to use the word addiction, marijuana addiction, is that I overcame it before.
Mm-hmm.
From the age 17 to 23, there was maybe a couple of dozen days that I did not smoke. Seriously.
So being
Jeez.
stoned was the norm.
Oh yeah, totally,
right.
Jeez.
totally. And in my those first few years of my 20s, I would wake and bake.
Right. So
Barry's like, what the hell are you talking about?
So you load up a delivery device before you go to sleep at night.
Well, you don't have to. I mean, I wasn't. Basically, you wake up,
Yeah. Okay.
smoke some weed,
Right.
and then have breakfast.
Okay.
You wake and you bake.
Okay.
Bake is
Okay.
slang for getting stoned, for getting high.
So is that you
Baked.
do the munchies for breakfast?
Yeah, the munchies usually come a few hours later.
Okay.
But you just headed them off. You headed the munchies off at the pass.
Right. Proactive munchie.
Proactive.
Yeah, so-
Yeah.
So there were a few years of my life where I was perma-stoned, essentially.
Right.
And then I fell into depression. So 2 times in my life I considered myself to be pretty dang depressed. And during that, so this is like a miracle story, honestly, getting out of my first depression, because I had no spiritual background, was not religious at all. When I was going to a church until I was 13, but the guy was like basically had put this like hell fear in me, and I told my mom I would never go again.
Original sin. And,
Right. Okay. Anyways, that's an aside.
Right.
But I was so desperate that I prayed. One night, I was not only smoking weed, but I was selling weed, and I'd make money, but it was going just as easily as it came.
Yeah.
And I would hold these big parties and had a bunch of friends around me who did not care about me, which only became evident once I stopped supplying them weed.
Of course.
But I was really down, and I prayed that somehow, I didn't care how, that my life would change, that I would be courageous enough to change my life, or that something miraculous would happen and that my life would change. And this was something that happened that night at a party with a girl, like, or something like that. Like, some buddy ended up hooking up with this girl I liked, and I was upset about it.
Yeah.
And was realizing, well, that guy wasn't really a good friend. It was probably hanging out with me to smoke my weed.
My friend hooked up with my girlfriend.
My girlfriend.
Yeah.
And he wants a joint.
Yeah. So he took a joint.
So I cried and I prayed that my life would change. That morning I woke up and there was a 72-hour eviction notice.
Oh no! Just pile it on, right?
They basically, like, the landlord was like, "You've been partying too much. We don't want you here." Oh, okay. I only got 72 hours to live here. I better throw one last big party.
So let's think about the logic of that. So I'm
Mixed choice.
evicted.
I was stoned, okay?
I'm evicted because I threw a party. So let's throw
a bigger
party.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting kicked out anyways. I mean, they're probably going to take my security deposit anyways.
Anyway, sure. Yeah.
That sounds kind of like Project to me.
Logic.
Pot logic.
Yeah, definitely.
We can laugh. We can laugh now. I'm sure at the time.
It wasn't so funny.
So I threw this big party. That night, I got robbed.
Oh.
Jeez.
Just one more. Just
my
pile it on.
stash. I had been getting fairly large quantities of weed, like several $1,000s worth. But I was getting it on a front from this buddy of mine, and so he would give me the weed.
Front means
I'd
that,
sell it.
So,
Okay.
so
then
you
I'd
don't
pay
have
back.
any money, and he gives you the weed.
Right.
And then he wants the money.
Okay, so somebody at the party.
This is like
one,
a movie.
One of my
Yes.
friends.
Actually,
One of my friends at
It
the
sounds
party.
like Hangover, the movie.
Is
Was there a lion involved? Didn't a lion come in
There
there in
could be.
Hangover or something? In the movie?
Yeah, I mean, it's,
I think
yes.
they went
Might
to
have been the
Caesars and
second one.
they
I don't remember.
They took the lion. Anyway, go ahead.
I think I saw that movie, but I was stoned.
Yeah.
Oh crap. Okay.
So your stash got stolen.
My stash got stolen. Yes, thank you. Okay. So now I owe this drug dealer several $1,000s, and he's not happy about it.
Right. Right.
And I
So your
had.
girlfriend left you with your friend. You're evicted, and now somebody's gonna kill you.
Well, yeah. I mean, they probably would have at least beaten me down.
But you would have been stoned, so who
No, because they stole it. I didn't have any. So I had one thing of value in my life, and that was my car, which I had to sell quickly to repay this drug dealer. So within a matter of 72 hours, I lost my means of livelihood. I lost my social circle. I lost my place to live, and I lost my vehicle.
Right.
And so, it's so odd telling the story. I'm depressed, and I moved in with my mom. And I lived with my mom for a couple of months. And then I moved to Portland, and I was never the same. I became so pure. I was really pure in regards to my sexuality and the way that I engaged with women. And I did not drink or smoke weed for several years, and was really pure in thought and heart and everything.
So take me back to the moment where, because I'm curious about the moment where you sort of surrendered. That you feel was miraculous. Is that what you're saying was kind of
Totally.
the miracle
It was a
moment?
miracle. Getting evicted was a miracle. Getting robbed was a miracle.
Because it forced you.
It forced me.
Yeah. Okay.
It forced me into change. And there was enough momentum in my life keeping me going in that direction that I probably would not have been strong enough to pull myself out of it. But
Right, so I mean, it's a classic tale in many ways of what you're telling us, because so many times, the worst possible thing turns out to be the thing that is the blessing,
right,
in disguise. It shifts us, and it takes us, because I call it living in the brown. It's been a metaphor I came up with a friend of mine who was going through all kinds of crazy stuff, and part of it was his relationship, his marriage, and it went on for years and years where he knew it was a terrible scenario. And I said, man, you need to hit black. You're living in the brown.
Oh, wow.
It's not bad enough.
Right.
You keep going.
So I can tolerate it.
I can tolerate it.
I don't feel good about it, and I want it to change.
And I want it to change, but it's not that bad. I said, dude, you need black.
Wow.
Because that will catapult you into the light, into a shift. And I asked how long. So once he's like, he was like stunned by this. He's like, oh my God, I have been living in the brown. You're right. That's exactly what it is. And I said, how long have you felt that way? He goes, at least 12 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah, at least 12 years of living where every day he knew it wasn't right. You know what I'm saying? It's like every day he knew his life was not right. But it wasn't bad enough. He didn't get evicted, and he didn't have his drugs stolen. So it wasn't bad enough to cause him to feel like rock bottom, and I've got to change this. So you were in the brown for a long time, and then boom, you got evicted, you got drugs stolen, you got paid, and then it was enough to push you into shift, into change.
Yeah, and I suppose that kind of repeating that cycle of like getting depressed and then going to live with my mom. This time now 33 instead of 20, right? So it's so interesting to me that now 10 years later, I've kind of done that cycle again, where and even this is only a trip to Portland, but it is totally reconnected me with the type of person that I was for the better part of 10 years that I lived here in Portland.
Yeah.
So after the brown to the black to the revelation when you're in your early 20s, and then college, and then graduation, job, new girlfriend, and then being stuck in Taiwan. Was it Taiwan?
India.
Well, yeah, India was the last leg of my journey.
Right. Yeah,
When you were kind of really,
That
because you
was-
broke up with your girlfriend in the middle of the trip.
Yeah.
And I remember when you told me that.
So now are we going from brown to black again?
I definitely was in the black.
Yeah.
I was definitely in the black for quite a while. But unlike the last situation, there was nothing kicking me to change.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Right. Nobody sold your stash.
yeah, hey, I don't have a stash this
Right.
time.
Exactly.
But in this scenario, it was more self-motivated, right? I mean, you
Well,
were
yeah,
feeling like
I mean,
you fell in there and you went into some of that feeding the bad wolf, but you
Right.
recognized it consciously on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, this is a really great point. Because life can, we can be motivated by getting, shoved into the black by life, which eventually will happen. I believe it happens inevitably if you're in the brown, like eventually. Or with consciousness, you can be in the brown for a while and go, wait, you know what? And I've done this in my own life where I've said, I am not going to wait around for life to kick me in the butt.
Right. You can shortcut.
I'm going to shortcut the process.
Yeah.
And
All of
begin
us
feeding.
can do this, right?
All of us can
If
do
we're not
this.
if we're not living in joy, and if we don't wake up every day with happiness, maybe we're in the brown.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so we can choose to become our own eviction notice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more this time around, I think, is what I hear is happening.
Yeah. So I think that like if life were to kick me in the butt again, it would have been a stronger kick. It would have taken.
Right.
I mean, I think I feel as if I got off pretty easily.
Yeah.
At the time, it was tough.
So does that
But,
come from maturity, or does it come from prior experience, or a little bit of both?
Which
The second time
around, when you recognize before you go black, and coming kind of raising your consciousness and coming out of that period of your life, does that come from experience or does it come from maturity?
In your case, do you feel?
Well, I think that honestly, this bout of depression in a lot of ways has been harder, because even though I know that I knew that I could overcome it, and I have now, because I'd done it before. So that kind of made it easier, like this assurance that I will eventually come out of this. But it was also more difficult because I had done so much personal growth work, and had been involved in, like,
That's right.
you know, your church
yeah.
community and so many things. And so it's like, I know what to do. I know how to be positive. I know how to have a morning ritual. I know how to, like, you know,
Breathe.
and be grateful.
Right.
But
So in
but
some ways,
I could not figure out why I was unable to change myself immediately. And maybe there was something I could have done to shift myself to prevent myself from even tanking in the first place. But all I can say is that what I've been doing is just slowly climbing. And so I don't know when exactly, like, my low point was, but it was probably like maybe a year ago or maybe 6 months ago. But it's been a steady climb since
So
then.
this happens to all of us, I think. And the key is understanding, first of all, recognizing it, that it's going on, and then having the tool set, which you had developed when you were younger, to help you climb up.
Right.
so what would you say, Lennon, and I'll add my own to this, but, you know, for people who might be watching this who are going through depression, what would you say to them? What would be your recommendation? How would you coach them right now in beginning the steps to climb out? What would you
Right.
say?
So stop feeling guilty
Okay.
about being depressed.
Okay.
That's a
So
good one.
step one, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That definitely kept me in my depression for much longer, because I mean, everybody's situation is different. So people fall into depression for various reasons, but like kind of the overarching theme as to any of my anxiety and the impetus behind all of my ambition is like this burning sense that I want to say meant to, or maybe I'm not, maybe I am, or maybe not meant to, but at least capable of doing something really meaningful and making a difference and really adding value to humanity collectively. And and also recognizing like how fortunate I am to have been born in the 20th century, now living in the 21st century, to be born in America, to be a white male, and this time of age, it's like that I feel super fortunate for that. But at the same time, it's like a blessing and a burden. And in depression, it was like I've been given all this by God or the universe or whatever, and here I am being ungrateful and squandering it. And how does that make me feel? It
Guilty.
makes me feel terrible.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
Right.
I think that the what really helped me was just this mental shift. Like, this is where I'm at, and it's not necessarily where I want to be, but I'm tired of beating myself up for it.
Yeah.
And so it's I've been implementing these positive life practices, re-implementing them, and it's been difficult because, like, things like meditation. I'm an experienced meditator. I've been meditating for several years, and it was really easy for me. It had got to the point where it's like as soon as I would close my eyes and start my meditation process, I would just drop right into it. Yeah, within like a second. And
Brown Wolf's kind of whimpering over there.
but it's in my depression, meditation was extremely challenging and frustrating.
Yeah.
But I just kept coming back to it, and it wasn't a daily habit initially, but I would little by little start making better choices. I feel totally upset right now. Why don't I try meditation before I go buy a salad?
What just happened? Right in the middle of our conversation with Lennon, for some reason, the camera decided to quit. So we got half of it, but fortunately we were able to do another take, and I'm going to give that to you in part 2. So stay tuned. And remember, like and subscribe.
If you're new to YouTube, then let me explain. You gotta give a thumbs up, that's how we play the game. You see, the more thumbs up a video gets, the more the powers that be distribute the video for others around the world to see. Next to subscribe button, there's a little bell. You gotta click on this little guy as well. Then only then will YouTube inform and let you know that Tipping Point Productions has got a new video. So give the thumbs up, click the bell, and share the love. So together we can take the truth and rise.